My name is Emily Granger, and I was always the family's dependable one. Until last year, when I left my brother's crying kids on his doorstep, locked the car, and drove off into the snow without saying a word. Let's just say, Katie's mascara streak screams still echo in our family group chat. I had finally had enough. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments, especially if you've ever had to choose between your peace and your family's expectations. The fireplace crackled in the background of our Vermont family cabin, Christmas Eve wrapping around the house like an overly sentimental Hallmark card. Fresh pine scent, red bows on the banister, the smell of spiced cider, all the signs of a perfect holiday except it wasn't mine. I was still in my boots, mid-sip of cider, when the front door burst open. Jason, my older brother, strode in like a man who hadn't just completely detonated my evening. Katie followed behind him, holding their toddler's hand, with the other two clinging to her coat. "Thanks again, Em," Jason grinned, setting a diaper bag down by the fireplace like it was a festive gift. "We're running late for the dinner downtown. You're a lifesaver." My brows pulled tight. "I what?" Katie peeled off her gloves, kissed the top of her daughter's head, and added breezily, "We meant to call. Things just got crazy with packing. The reservation's in 20. You've got everything you need, their jammies are in the bag. I didn't agree to babysit tonight." Jason froze mid-button on his peacoat. "Didn't Mom tell you?" I looked over at our mother, who was already reaching for her clutch by the hallway mirror. "You're the dependable one, sweetheart," she said without apology. She patted my shoulder, then turned to grab her coat. That one sentence was like ice water down my spine. The dependable one. What, everyone gets to go out and I get dumped on like a holiday nanny? On Christmas Eve, my voice cracked as I said it, part fury, part disbelief. Mom's tone was syrupy. "Honey, the kids love you." "I had plans. I was going to meet up with Allison." "Your sister's waiting in the car," Jason interrupted. "Can you just handle this? It's not a big deal." "No, it is a big deal," I snapped, louder than I meant to. "No one asked me. You just showed up. Like my time doesn't matter." Katie looked genuinely surprised. "Emily, it's just a few hours. You're so good with them." Oh, so now kindness is a trap. I could feel tears pricking the corners of my eyes, not sadness, but exhaustion and sheer frustration. The toddler started crying. The middle one grabbed the remote and turned on a cartoon. The baby began crawling straight toward the Christmas tree. Jason gave a shrug, then the kiss-off line I'll never forget. "We'll owe you one." And then they were gone. The front door closed with a soft thud that somehow hit me harder than any slammed door ever could. I stood there for a moment, surrounded by chaos, blinking as the toddler knocked over a cup of hot cocoa and started wailing again. I looked around at the ornaments, the perfect wrapping paper, the fake smiles in the photo on the mantel. I wanted to scream. Instead, I set my cider down, took a deep breath, and started cleaning up the cocoa. By 8:30, the baby was screaming, the toddler refused to brush her teeth, and the 5-year-old had hidden her pajamas somewhere inside a giant toy chest shaped like a moose. I sat on the hallway bench, mascara smudged, my own dress for the night crumpled in a laundry basket behind me. My phone lit up with a text from Allison. "Still meeting at the mill for drinks? Miss you." I didn't even have the heart to reply. Somewhere between the spilled juice, the third reading of the night before Christmas, and a tantrum over bedtime socks, something inside me snapped, not loudly, not even angrily, but like a quiet click of a lock turning. They called it dependability, but what they really meant was, "You're convenient." I wasn't dependable. I was available. And they had all come to depend on that more than they respected me. As I finally got the last child to sleep, I sat in the living room alone. Outside, snow was falling gently. Inside, my chest burned. Tomorrow they'd thank me, they'd act like it was no big deal. Like I wasn't the one always giving something up. But I'd already decided next time, there wouldn't be a next time. Back in my one-bedroom apartment in Hoboken, the chaos of Christmas already felt like a bad dream I couldn't quite shake. The silence here wasn't just peaceful, it was sacred. No cartoons blaring. No crying toddlers. No guilt-laced comments from Mom about how family sacrifices Emily. Just me, the hum of my heater, and my couch that had seen me through every emotional storm since grad school. I pulled a fleece blanket around my legs and balanced my laptop on my knees, scrolling vacation deals like they were job listings, half hoping, half daring myself to click book. January was around the corner, and so was my birthday. 32. Alone. Again. But this time, something felt different. Natalie's face lit up on my laptop as our FaceTime call connected. She was propped up in bed, hair in a top knot, sipping chamomile tea like she lived inside a Pinterest board. "I still can't believe they pulled that," she said without a greeting. "They dropped 3 kids on you without asking and then partied like it was your honor." I gave a weak smile. Apparently, being dependable means I should be available 24/7. Natalie's eyebrows shot up. "No. It means you're a decent person who they treat like a doormat." She wasn't wrong, but it still stung to hear it out loud. "I missed drinks with Allison," I admitted. "She waited for almost 2 hours. I didn't even get to wear the dress I bought." Natalie leaned in, eyes fierce. "Then let's rewrite the story. Your birthday's in 2 weeks. You always spend it baking your own cake and watching Hallmark movies while your mom texts passive-aggressively. Not this year." She grabbed her phone and started typing. "Looking up flights." I hesitated. "I don't know, I shouldn't spend the money, Emily." Her voice went soft but firm. "When's the last time you did anything just for you?" I sat back, staring at the screen. I couldn't remember. 10 minutes later, we were combing through travel deals like we were picking out wedding venues. "I want sun," I said suddenly. "No coats, no gray skies. Somewhere dry where no one calls me before sunrise asking if I can pick up someone's kid." Natalie grinned. "Desert Queen energy, I love it." We landed on Arizona. A boutique resort near Scottsdale, cactus-lined pools, spa massages, and a complimentary breakfast that included mimosas. As my mouse hovered over the confirm booking button, I paused. "You deserve this," Natalie said gently, reading my face. "And you're not asking anyone for permission." I clicked. The email confirmation pinged instantly and something deep in my chest loosened. 5 nights, just me. No obligations, no explanations. My birthday was mine again. I closed the laptop and looked around my small apartment, noticing for the first time how much I had built for myself. A life that was small, maybe, but peaceful. A space where no one took more than they gave. "I'm going to Arizona," I said out loud, more to myself than anyone. "Say it again," Natalie said, raising her mug. I smiled, this time fully. "I'm going to Arizona, alone, for my birthday." And just like that, the rules started to change. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of lightness I hadn't felt in years. Booking that trip to Arizona had rewired something in me overnight. I wasn't floating exactly, but I was untethered from that constant buzz of guilt and obligation. Coffee brewed in the corner of my apartment, and I sat at the kitchen counter, drafting the message I knew I had to send. Simple, direct, polite enough to avoid a war. I opened the Granger family group chat, a digital battleground where plans were made, assumptions were dumped, and I was often volunteered for things I never agreed to. Me, "Hey all, just wanted to let you know I'll be out of town for my birthday this year, headed to Arizona for a little solo trip, finally taking some time for myself. Hope you're all doing well." Heart 3 blinking dots popped up from Mom's number almost immediately. That alone surprised me. "Mom, that's nice, dear. Enjoy the sun. The kids will miss you." That was it. No "sounds amazing," no "you deserve it," no curiosity about where or why. Just a gentle pat on the head and a redirect to the grandkids, as if my trip was an inconvenience to their babysitting expectations. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then locked my phone and got up to pour my coffee. An hour passed. Nothing from Jason. Nothing from Katie. Nothing from my sister Allison. Not even a thumbs-up emoji. It wasn't shock I felt, it was confirmation. Later that afternoon, just as I was settling into work emails and sipping lukewarm coffee, my phone pinged again. "Katie, hey, so random question. Any chance you'd be able to pick the kids up from school next week? Just Wednesday through Friday. Jason's work trip got bumped, and I've got a few things to take care of before we leave for Florida." My stomach nodded. It was always like this, requests phrased like harmless favors, sprinkled with just enough vagueness to trap me. She hadn't mentioned the times. She hadn't asked what I had going on. And there it was again, before we leave for Florida. Another vacation I wasn't included in, apparently. I stared at the screen, debating how to respond. I wanted to say no, just no, without a long explanation or guilt-soaked compromise. But instead I typed, "Hey Katie, I'll actually be prepping for my trip that week and tying things up at work. Might be tough to commit to anything extra right now." Her reply came faster than I expected. "Katie, oh wow, okay, we were really hoping you could help out, just thought you'd be free since it's after the holidays." There it was, that tiny, passive-aggressive undertone. That twist of "you're always around, why not now?" I didn't answer. I left it on read. I let the silence speak for once. Later that night, Natalie and I debriefed over FaceTime. "They're not even pretending to care about your birthday, huh?" she asked, biting into a slice of pizza like it offended her personally. "They're not used to me saying no," I admitted. "Especially not in advance." "Well, let them get used to it," she said, chewing fiercely. "The Emily they're used to is on vacation, babe, permanently." That night, as I curled into bed, I realized something. I hadn't said yes. Not even out of habit. Not even out of fear of disappointing anyone. And that, oddly, felt more powerful than the plane ticket I'd booked. It was the Thursday before my trip. I came home earlier than usual, half expecting to finally feel that pre-vacation buzz. But instead I felt off, like I was walking into something I wasn't supposed to see. I pushed open the door to my apartment, juggling my laptop bag and leftover Thai takeout, and immediately heard voices. Faint, muffled, coming from my living room. At first I thought the TV had autoplayed one of those annoying streaming previews. But then I froze. It wasn't the TV. It was my mother's voice. I rounded the corner quietly and found my iPad still on the coffee table, FaceTime open, apparently connected to a call I hadn't even answered earlier. The screen glowed with her face, small, half-lit, glasses perched on her nose as she walked around her kitchen. My name was still listed at the top of the screen, like she'd accidentally hit dial and never realized the call connected. I stood in the hallway, hidden from view. I don't know why I didn't say something. Maybe part of me already knew. "I told her she wouldn't mind," Mom said, her voice light, like this wasn't something that might shatter me. "Emily always helps when it's important. And this is Jason's anniversary trip, for heaven's sake." Jason's voice chimed in, laughing. "She'll be fine. She never says no. We'll leave before lunch on Saturday. She'll figure it out when she gets there, but by then it'll be too late." Silence stretched around me like a tight thread. They were planning to leave the kids with me again, without asking, again. And worse, they knew I was going on vacation. They were just planning around it, assuming I'd cancel. Like I always did. My chest tightened, and I blinked fast, afraid of what might spill out if I didn't get control of it. The call continued, Mom and Jason casually plotting their solution, Katie's voice now drifting faintly into the mix in the background. "We'll just say it was a misunderstanding. She won't make a fuss." They were counting on my silence, counting on my convenience, counting on me being me. I stepped back from the doorway slowly, the bag of Thai food dangling in my hand like a forgotten thought. My ears were ringing. I didn't say anything. I didn't shout. I didn't march in and demand an explanation. I just went into my bedroom. Quietly, set the food on the dresser, opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the trackpad for a moment, then typed in my airline reservation code. Flight, Newark to Phoenix, Sunday morning. I clicked change flight. New option, Saturday morning, 6:20 a.m. Perfect. I clicked again. Confirm. $89 change fee. Totally worth it. My phone buzzed on the nightstand as I packed a few early things into my suitcase. T-shirts, a dress I'd never gotten to wear on Christmas Eve, my worn-out sandals. Katie's name flashed across the screen. "Katie, hey, just confirming, can you swing by around noon Saturday to watch the kids?" I stared at the message for a long time. No, not this time. I set my phone down without replying. They wouldn't even have time to try and guilt me. By the time they showed up, bags packed, car running, I'd be halfway to the desert. As I zipped the suitcase shut, a strange calm settled over me. Not rage, not sadness, just clarity. This wasn't miscommunication, it wasn't just how family works. It was calculated, expected, entitled. And finally, I wasn't going to play along. The zipper on my suitcase made a soft, final click in the quiet of my apartment. It was past midnight now. Outside, the streetlights cast long orange streaks through my blinds. Inside, only the rhythmic hum of my heater and the occasional creak of the floor reminded me I wasn't dreaming. I moved slowly, folding each item with care, not because I was in a rush, but because this packing felt like something more than preparation. It felt like closure. My passport was tucked in the front pocket of my bag. Sunscreen, bathing suit, 3 paperback novels. A dress I hadn't worn since my cousin's wedding 3 years ago, the one everyone told me was too nice for a family trip. Perfect. I placed my phone screen down on the table, ignoring the growing number of unread texts. I didn't need to read Katie's just checking, or Mom's emoji-filled reminders. They were counting down to noon on Saturday when I'd just show up, keys in hand, ready to be their solution. They didn't know I'd be 30,000 feet above them by then. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, fingers brushing against the fridge door. That same Christmas photo was still magneted in place, the one from 2 years ago, all of us smiling in matching pajamas. I stared at it for a moment, the illusion of closeness, the curated proof of a family that functioned. What the picture didn't show was how I'd stayed up till 2 a.m. baking cookies while everyone else went to bed, how I got up early to make breakfast for 12, how Katie handed me her baby 5 minutes before opening gifts because he likes you more. I removed the photo, folded it, slid it into the drawer with the Chinese takeout menus. I wasn't erasing the past. I was just done pretending it didn't cost me something. I returned to the living room, picked up my phone, and opened the family group chat, typed slowly, carefully, no anger, no theatrics. Hey everyone, just a heads up. I've moved my flight and will be leaving early for my trip. I won't be around this week. Hope you all have a great new year. I reread it 3 times, polite, neutral, direct, then I hit send. I turned off my phone immediately. No buzzing, no dots, no replies. I wasn't interested in the performance. Instead, I slipped into bed, arms curled around my pillow, heart thudding softly, not from fear but from anticipation. And something else I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. That night, my dreams weren't filled with crying babies or last-minute casseroles. They were quiet, sun-drenched, and slow. I woke before my alarm, watched the soft gray morning light spill across my bedroom floor, and smiled. They would wake up soon. They'd read the message. And for once, they'd have to make a plan that didn't include me. The desert sun warmed my skin like it had been waiting just for me. I sat at the edge of the pool, my legs dangling in the perfectly cool water, a glass of iced coffee sweating gently in my hand. It was my birthday morning. No decorations. No chaos. No kids screaming because the syrup ran off their pancake snowman. Just me. Bare shoulders, bare face, and not a single obligation in sight. The Scottsdale resort was even more peaceful than the photos had promised. Palm trees swayed lazily above me, and in the distance, I could hear the gentle splash of someone swimming slow laps. The only to-do I had was deciding whether to book a massage or nap in the hammock near the herb garden. For the first time in years, my birthday felt like mine. I scrolled through a few messages from friends. Natalie had sent a selfie wearing sunglasses with Arizona or bust scribbled in Sharpie across the lenses. Her text was short but perfect. You look hot and free. Proud of you, don't text back. Just tan. I smiled, pulled my towel tighter across my legs, and leaned back in the lounge chair. And then my phone buzzed. Mom. The text preview glowed up at me like a little reminder from another life. Happy birthday. We're all waiting to celebrate with you, dear Red, we're all waiting. As if the last 2 weeks hadn't happened. As if I hadn't sent a message days ago. As if my absence were just a temporary oversight that could be corrected with cake and awkward hugs. I stared at the message, the same way you look at a faded postcard from someone who no longer knows who you really are. She didn't ask where I was. She didn't acknowledge the message I'd sent. She just assumed I was on my way. I sipped my coffee, let the coolness settle behind my teeth, and typed a response. Son with face already celebrated. I'm on the other side of the country. Enjoy the kids. No anger, no sarcasm, just truth. I hit send. Watched the little delivered bubble appear. Then without another thought I powered off my phone. No more expectations. No more emotional gymnastics. I stood, let my towel fall, and walked to the pool's edge. The water sparkled up at me, golden and still. I slipped in slowly, letting the warmth wrap around me like silk. My hair floated behind me. The sun kissed the back of my neck. Somewhere above, a hummingbird zipped past with the kind of freedom I finally understood. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't rebelling. I was simply gone. Gone from the weight of silent assumptions. Gone from a family that waited for me to bend again. Gone into my own life where I got to say when I showed up and when I didn't. As I floated on my back, eyes closed to the sun, one thought rose up so clearly it felt like it had always been waiting for me. This is what it means to come home to yourself. I was back in my hotel room, hair still damp from the pool, wrapped in a thick white robe that smelled faintly of lavender and new beginnings. My skin was sun-warmed, my limbs loose from floating all morning, and for the first time in years, my brain was quiet. No checklists. No errands. No texts from Katie saying, Quick favor, could you? Followed by a 72-hour commitment in disguise. I sat on the edge of the bed, sipping a green smoothie I didn't even like, but had ordered just because I could. My phone, now powered back on, was glowing with notifications. Most were from friends, a few birthday messages, a sweet one from Natalie that just said, "Hope you're somewhere beautiful and alone in the best way." I smiled, swiped away the clutter, and finally, out of curiosity, not obligation, opened the family group chat. And oh, the timing couldn't have been better. "Mom, Emily, where are you? Katie, are you running late? Jason's mom can't do today. Jason our Uber is coming at 2. Are you close?" Then a few lines later, "Mom, wait, what do you mean she's in Arizona? Jason, what? Katie, I thought she was flying after New Year's. She didn't say anything about leaving already. Mom, she said she wouldn't be around. I thought that meant evenings. Why would she leave right before the trip? Jason, because she's tired of being your default plan, Mom." That one made me pause. Coming from Jason, that was unexpected. The messages kept flying. "Katie, this is ridiculous. She knew we were counting on her." "Grandma June, counting on her for what? To cancel her birthday again so you could take another vacation." "Mom, Mother, please don't start, Grandma June." "No, I will start. Because this is exactly what I've been warning you about for years. You keep piling things onto Emily like she's the family mule. And now you're shocked she walked away." I stared at the screen, blinking. Grandma, that quiet, polite, never-rock-the-boat grandma who always brought ambrosia salad and tried to smooth over tension with crochet projects. She was the one speaking up. The thread kept going. "Jason, Katie, did you even ask Emily? Or did you just assume?" "Katie," I asked, sort of. "I said we were hoping she'd help." "Jason, no, you hoped she wouldn't say no. That's not the same." "Mom, well, we can't just leave the kids alone. What are we supposed to do now?" "Grandma June, you figure it out like adults. Emily told you she was going, you ignored it, that's on you." And then silence. No more messages for almost an hour, just a long thread of collective unraveling. I sat in the middle of my hotel bed, legs folded beneath me, watching the little drama unfold like a play I no longer starred in. My phone buzzed again. "Natalie, your mom just tried calling me. I ignored it, just thought you'd enjoy knowing that." I laughed out loud, the kind that bursts out from your chest without permission. And in that moment I didn't feel cruel. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't even feel smug. I felt clear. They were learning. Slowly maybe, but learning all the same. And I hadn't had to yell, or cry, or explain myself into exhaustion. I just left. And the absence, the space I'd finally claimed, was speaking for itself louder than I ever had. The next morning I woke to a quiet so complete it felt holy. Arizona light poured through the gauzy curtains, streaking across the crisp white sheets. It was the kind of quiet that lets your thoughts arrive slowly without sharp edges. I stretched, exhaled, and checked my phone. 12 missed calls. 7 voicemails. 5 from Mom, 1 from Katie, 1 from an unknown number I suspected was Jason's work cell. The family group chat had gone dark overnight, radio silence after the group meltdown. But now a fresh wave was brewing. The guilt part, the desperate part. I slid my phone off Do Not Disturb and tapped on the first voicemail. "Mom," voice already cracking. "Emily, please call me. I don't understand how you could just leave. You knew Jason and Katie needed you. This was their anniversary. Always been the dependable one." The next one came seconds later. "I mean, honestly, what were we supposed to do? Your brother's flight is in a few hours. You didn't say when you were leaving, just that you'd be gone. You should have been more clear." I let that one sit. I had been clear, they just didn't listen. The third voicemail was quieter, sadder. "You've changed, sweetheart. I don't know when it happened, but this isn't the daughter I raised." That one hit differently. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I was the daughter she raised. I was always the daughter who said yes, who made sure everyone had what they needed before even noticing what I needed myself. I cooked, I showed up, I canceled. I apologized for not doing more when I had already done too much. What she meant was, this isn't the daughter I could count on to abandon herself anymore. And she was right. The last voicemail was full-on weeping. "Jason and Katie lost everything. The airline won't refund the tickets. The hotel said the deposit is non-refundable. They're devastated. I can't believe you would do this. You abandoned us, Emily. What kind of daughter are you?" I set the phone down gently, like it might break under the weight of her words. I didn't cry, not this time. I got up, poured myself a cup of the resort spiced tea, and sat on the balcony, watching a hummingbird zip between cactus blossoms. Somewhere in the distance, the soft sound of yoga music floated up from the courtyard. What kind of daughter was I? I was the kind who'd spent the last 15 Christmases cleaning up after everyone's mess, missing my own life while they built theirs. I was the kind who'd offered to help with school pickups, emergency sitters, last-minute birthday cakes, family slideshows, everything. And I was the kind who finally had nothing left to give. I picked up the phone again, not to call but to listen one more time. Katie's message was shorter, cooler. "This is so selfish, Emily. We depended on you, we trusted you. Jason and I worked so hard to plan this trip and now it's ruined. I hope your birthday was worth it." It was. It really, really was. I didn't respond. I didn't type a long explanation or soften their anger with empathy. I didn't even say sorry, because for once I wasn't. Instead, I opened a new note in my phone and typed something I'd been thinking since last night. "Kindness without boundaries is self-destruction dressed as virtue." I stared at the sentence, let it echo. They weren't angry because I failed them. They were angry because I stopped letting them fail me, and that made me stronger than I'd ever been. It was January 8th when I stepped back into my apartment, bronzed, rested, and honestly, a little unrecognizable even to myself. The air inside felt cooler than the Arizona warmth I'd left behind, but my body still held that heat like a secret. A low, quiet burn in my chest. Not anger anymore. Something steadier, resolved. There was a single voicemail waiting from Mom, just one this time. "Dinner next Sunday, Allison's making her lasagna, hope you'll come. We'll talk if you want to." No apology, no acknowledgement, but still an opening. And part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the one that booked that early flight, the one that floated in the pool on her birthday with her phone turned off, that part whispered, "Go. But this time, don't disappear into the wallpaper." So I did. Sunday evening, I pulled into my parents' driveway as the last of the winter sun slid down behind the neighborhood rooftops. The porch light was already on, casting a warm yellow glow over the familiar welcome mat. The smell of garlic and tomato sauce hit me before I even rang the doorbell. I stepped inside, uninvited but not unwelcome. Technically. "Emily," Mom said, her tone brittle but trying. "You're here." "I said I would be," I replied, shrugging off my coat. I didn't kiss her cheek like I usually did. Didn't step into caretaker mode, asking what needed doing. I just walked to the dining room like a guest. The table was already set. Everyone was seated. Jason gave a half nod but didn't meet my eyes. Katie was buttering a roll with surgical precision, avoiding even the hint of a glance my way. Allison looked mildly relieved to see me but didn't say anything beyond a quiet, "Hey." The kids were missing, probably with a sitter or at home. The adults only. It had the air of a formal truce meeting, though no one said it aloud. I slid into the open seat next to Allison and poured myself a glass of water. No one asked about my trip. No one asked how I'd been. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of cutlery clinking on ceramic. "So," Mom finally ventured, "how was your vacation?" She said the word like it was unfamiliar in her mouth. "Peaceful," I said, smiling. "Perfect, actually." More silence. Katie stood to refill the bread basket and slammed the cabinet just a little harder than necessary. I didn't flinch. Instead, I cut into the lasagna calmly, took a bite, and looked around at the table. The tension was palpable. The usual dance, the one where I made things easier, filled in the awkward gaps, lightened the mood, was missing. Because I was missing from that role. And I wasn't going back to it. I could see it unsettling them, this new version of me, quiet, contained, unapologetic. After dinner, as we stood around the kitchen, Mom tried again. "I just hope, next time you make such a big decision, you'll at least talk to us first." She said it gently, but with that same tone I knew too well. The one that disguised expectations as concern. That was when I knew. This was the moment. I set down my water glass slowly and turned to face her. And I didn't look away. The kitchen had always been Mom's domain, smelling like garlic, cluttered with spice jars, humming with the familiar sound of family orbiting around her. But that night, as I stood across from her, everything felt different. Smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves were waiting for what I might say. "Next time," she repeated, "just talk to us first before making such a big decision." There it was again. That us. That subtle reminder that I was the variable. That my choices were supposed to be filtered through the family lens before they were allowed to exist. That what I wanted needed group approval. I looked down at the half-full glass of water in my hand, then set it on the counter with a soft, deliberate clink. I did talk to you, I said evenly. I told everyone I'd be gone. I sent it clearly in the group chat. No mystery, no hidden meaning, I was honest, you just didn't listen. Her mouth opened but nothing came out. That alone felt like I'm done being the backup plan, I continued, my voice calm but sharpened by the weight of years. The safety net, the person who gets volunteered because she doesn't yell. Katie stood frozen near the sink, dish towel still in hand. Jason suddenly found the tile floor deeply interesting. No one rushed to speak. I stepped away from the counter and walked to the kitchen table. You've all decided, somewhere along the way, that my time doesn't count unless it's serving someone else. That I owe you first refusal on every hour of my life. Allison shifted uncomfortably. No one corrected me, no one denied it. But here's the thing, I said, softer now but no less firm. My life is mine. My time belongs to me, not to whoever's the most stressed or the most disorganized, not to whoever booked a vacation without checking if I was already living a life. Katie set down the towel a little too hard on the counter. Emily, no one meant to take advantage. I raised a hand gently, not to silence her but to protect my space. You didn't mean to, but you did, repeatedly, and I let you, that part's on me, but not anymore. My mother stepped forward, her tone imploring. We're family, Em, we help each other. Yes, I said, we help, not assign, not assume, not manipulate. A beat of silence passed. I looked around the room, at these people I still loved, but no longer allowed to define me. From now on, I said slowly, I decide how I spend my time. The words hung in the air like a gavel. It wasn't a threat, it wasn't a request, it was a new law, one I had waited far too long to write. No one replied, not right away. Jason looked like he wanted to speak but didn't. Katie's face was unreadable. And Mom looked at me like she didn't quite recognize who I'd become. And maybe she didn't. But I did. Finally, the quiet didn't last long. Like a pause before a thunderclap, the moment after I said, from now on, I decide how I spend my time, was filled with stillness, but not acceptance. Just tension coiling ready to strike, and strike it did. Katie was the first to snap. So that's it, she said sharply, turning from the counter with her arms crossed. You just decided you're too important for your own family now. I met her eyes calm. I decided I'm not invisible. Jason jumped in next. One said you were invisible, Emily, but you left us hanging. You didn't even give us a chance to figure something out. I gave you exactly what I had to give, I said steady. A clear message well in advance. The problem wasn't my timing, it was your assumption I wouldn't follow through. But you abandoned us, Mom said suddenly, louder than I expected. Her voice was trembling, not just with frustration but shame. You left children, you left me. On your birthday, no less. Mom. I took a breath. You didn't ask me, none of you did. You embarrassed the family, she continued as if I hadn't spoken. Jason and Katie had to cancel everything. Your sister was mortified. Everyone at the resort thought they were irresponsible. Do you know how that reflects on us? Ah, there it was, not grief, not hurt, but reputation. You embarrassed us, she said again. There it was again, layered with something unspoken. You made us look like the kind of people who take advantage. Because we did, I stepped forward slowly, planting my feet in the middle of the room. Not angry, not defensive, just resolved. You've taken my kindness for granted, I said clearly, and this time no one dared interrupt. Not once, not twice, for years. You've wrapped it in compliments, called me dependable, generous, selfless, but what you really meant was convenient, predictable, easy to use. Katie rolled her eyes, but I didn't stop. You never asked what I needed. You just left your kids. Assumed I'd fold my life to fit your plans. Every birthday, every holiday, mine vanished so yours could go smoothly. Jason exhaled hard through his nose, but I turned to face him. You knew you didn't have a sitter, and instead of fixing that, you laughed when Mom said, she won't say no. That wasn't a plan, that was manipulation. Jason looked away. He didn't deny it. I turned toward Mom. And you. You've been telling me who I am for so long, you didn't notice I've changed. You thought a text saying, we're waiting would summon me back like always. Like I owe you my presence just because I was born into this family. No one moved. Even Allison, who had been silent, was watching me now with wide, unreadable eyes. So I'm going to be clear, I said, voice low but firm. Here are my boundaries. Mom flinched just slightly, but I kept going. No more unannounced childcare, ever, you ask, in advance. And I decide. Katie opened her mouth, but I didn't let her in. No more guilt tripping. No more framing my no as betrayal. I have a life, I have limits. If you want help, you ask like I'm a person, not an obligation. I paused, letting the silence swallow the room. And finally, no more making me the bad guy for doing the very thing you do all the time, choosing myself. The room held its breath. I'd never seen them all this quiet. Jason swallowed and looked like he might speak, but didn't. Katie leaned back against the counter like she needed support. Mom blinked fast, the edges of her eyes glossy, but she didn't cry. No one apologized, but no one argued either, and honestly, that was enough. Not because they suddenly understood, but because they'd heard me, all the way through. And they knew now I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't threatening. I wasn't looking for a reaction. I had already left that version of myself behind. All that was left to do now was live like it. I picked up my coat, slipped it over my shoulders, and looked around the kitchen one last time. "I'll stay for dessert," I said softly, "but only if we can all eat it like grown-ups." No one said a word, but they made room for me at the table. Easter arrived quietly that year. No last-minute group texts. No surprise car seats showing up in my trunk. No frantic calls asking me to bring deviled eggs for 20 on an hour's notice. Just a text from Mom. "Mom, would you like to come to Easter dinner this year? We're thinking 3 p.m. at Allison's. Let me know what works for you." That last sentence, "Let me know what works for you," I had to reread it twice. It wasn't perfect. It was still a little stiff. But it was an invitation, not a summons. And it was a start. I replied that I'd be happy to come, and I offered to bring a salad, just a salad. No full catering job, no quadrangling. Just a light spring salad with strawberries and candied pecans. Something I'd actually enjoy making. When I pulled up to Allison's house that afternoon, the driveway was full, but for once I didn't feel dread rising in my chest. I didn't feel like I was walking into a trap. Allison greeted me at the door with a genuine hug, and to my shock, the first thing she said was, "Thanks again for coming, Em. You didn't have to." That landed softly. Inside, the kids were playing in the backyard, supervised by a high school babysitter with pink hair and earbuds in. Katie and Jason were in the kitchen, quietly setting dishes on the table together. No tension, no snarky comments, not even a passive-aggressive mention of Arizona. Katie even smiled when she saw me, not forced, just polite. "Hey," she said, "that salad looks amazing." "Thanks," I said, setting it down. Glad to finally get to enjoy a holiday without cooking half the meal. Her smile twitched a little and she nodded. "Yeah, I get that." It was awkward, but not cold. Like two people trying out new shoes, unsure if they fit but still walking forward. Dinner itself was peaceful, everyone served themselves. No one pushed a baby into my lap. No one asked me to carve anything. And when the conversation veered toward summer vacation planning, Mom turned to me and asked, "Would you be open to joining us for a weekend trip in July? Totally optional, of course." Totally optional. I didn't answer right away, I just took a sip of my wine and said I'd think about it. And that was that. Later, I slipped out onto the patio with my glass and called Natalie. She picked up instantly. "Tell me it's not chaos," she said. "It's not," I replied, stretching out my legs. "It's actually weirdly calm," she laughed. "Did you get kidnapped by polite clones of your family?" "Not clones, just people finally adjusting to the boundaries I put up." I told her about the sitter, about the calm, about Mom actually asking for my availability. "So what does that feel like?" Natalie asked. I looked out at the backyard, the kids running around, the adults refilling drinks. No guilt, no resentment, just people figuring it out without sacrificing me in the process. "It feels," I said slowly, "like I finally taught them how to treat me." There was a long pause on the line, then Natalie said, "You taught yourself first. That's the difference." I smiled into the glass rim. Easter wasn't perfect, it wasn't magical. But it was mine, in a way no holiday had ever been. Not because they changed, but because I did and I stayed changed. The Christmas lights in Paris weren't like the ones back home. They shimmered in slow, golden strands across the narrow alleyways of Montmartre, draping softly over boulangeries and bookshops, casting warm halos on the cobblestone. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. It was graceful. Like the city itself had nothing to prove. I stood near a stall in the Place des Abysses, sipping mulled wine from a paper cup that warmed both my hands and my chest. The smell of cinnamon and clove swirled with the cold air, and somewhere behind me, a street violinist played a haunting version of Silent Night. I'd rented a tiny flat with a view of a church tower, and had learned just enough French to order pastries with confidence. Each morning, I walked along the Seine like I had nowhere to be. Because I didn't. This wasn't a trip to escape. It was a trip to celebrate. A full year had passed since the Christmas Eve breakdown, the babysitting ambush, the overheard betrayal, the early flight that changed everything. And in that year I had become someone I never knew I could be. Not harder, just clearer, not colder, just more self-protective, not distant, just finally free. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I took another slow sip before checking it. One new message from the family group chat. Jason, Merry Christmas from home, just the 6 of us this year. Hope you're having the time of your life. Read attached was a photo. Jason and Katie on the couch, the kids in matching pajamas holding mugs of cocoa, Mom smiling softly in the background next to Grandma June, who held up a sparkly Santa ornament like she was showing it off for a catalog. No guilt. No passive aggression. No assumptions. Just a photo. Just a greeting. Just peace. I looked at it for a long time. Smiled. I typed back, Joy you Nile red looks cozy. I'm watching little French kids skate in berets. Life is good. Then I turned my phone to silent, slid it back into my coat pocket and walked toward the edge of the square. A group of children laughed as they stumbled their way around a pop-up ice rink, cheeks pink with cold and joy. A little girl fell and her brother helped her up. No drama, no lecture, just a small hand reaching out in quiet instinct. That used to be me, I thought, always reaching, always fixing, always waiting to be told I'd done enough. Now I sip wine in Paris. Now I let the silence stay silent. Now I give without emptying myself. At a nearby vendor I bought a small ornament made of painted glass, hand-blown, delicate, shaped like a cactus in the snow. Arizona and Christmas. Then and now, I'd hang it in my window back home. Alone, by choice, not lonely, just whole. Before heading back to my flat, I took one last look at the skating children, the glowing market stalls, the sky settling into a soft winter dusk. And in the quiet I felt it fully. Not just freedom. Not just peace, but ownership. This life, this joy, this quiet, it was mine. Finally, completely mine.